Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and your viewership. It means a lot. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at 10 cheap fragrances that smell like expensive fragrances. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin this video on 10 cheap fragrances that smell like expensive fragrances, and I go ahead and make the connection and tell you which ones they smell like and how similar they are to the original, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like top 10 lists just like this, but also fragrance reviews, giveaways, unboxings, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do put out these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. Now, I know I actually did a series of these types of videos. I did a parts 1 through 4, and then I also did another one on fragrances that don't necessarily resemble any original expensive fragrances, but they just sort of smelled expensive, or they smelled like they were worth a lot more money than they actually are. I'm going to leave a link to that annotation up here, or that card if you will. But in this video, we are going to be specifically focusing on fragrances that are on the inexpensive side. A lot of these are below the $50 price point, and they do remind me of some very expensive niche fragrances that I have encountered. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. It also goes without saying that these aren't necessarily clones of more expensive fragrances. Some of them are, but some of them just kind of remind me of more expensive fragrances. So the first one that I want to talk about is by the company Zara, and this one is called Scent Number 1. Now, I don't know if this is still available. I purchased it when it first came out, which was a couple of years ago. You may still be able to find it online. It was very, very inexpensive. I think it was like 17 bucks if I'm remembering correctly, but this reminds me a lot of Santal 33, except the performance just isn't there. Santal 33 by Le Labo lasts a very long time on my skin. You have the sandalwood, the papyrus, the spicy qualities, and you're going to get a very similar DNA in here. It's a little bit diluted, a little bit adulterated, a little bit watered down, but I do find that this one will put me in the same mindset as the Santal 33. But yeah, like I said, the longevity just isn't there, unfortunately. So I am kind of grouping these together. The first two are Zara fragrances, and this one is called Warm Black. So this one I purchased last year, towards the beginning of last year, if I'm remembering correctly. And this one kind of reminds me of Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford. It has a very similar sort of vanilla tobacco thing going on in the dry down. A little bit spicy as well, because I do find that the vanilla in the Tom Ford fragrance is a little bit on the spicy side. And so I am getting a bit of a similarity in this one as well. Now this one actually lasts a little bit longer than Scent Number 1, so this one will probably land you in the vein of like 4 to 5 hours, and I think it's because it does utilize a lot of those base heavy ingredients like the vanilla and some woodsy notes in the base, and of course the tobacco. So I actually find this to be very, very enjoyable. I'm very surprised that the company Zara put a fragrance like this out, especially considering the fact that when you explore a lot of their catalog, you'll see that they focus their attention on some of the brighter iterations on the market, like the Bleu de Chanel's and the Dior Sauvages, and they kind of have their own version of those bright commercial smelling fragrances, and so to kind of go after like a Tobacco Vanille was pretty impressive. The next one is by Fragranza, and this one is called Wild Palermo. So this one actually kind of reminds me of two fragrances that are very expensive. The first one is Rose d'Arabie by Armani Privé. Very sort of rosy, resinous, labdanum rich perfume, and it also kind of reminds me a little bit of More Than Words by Xerjoff. And so there's a similarity between those two fragrances as well, but this one can be had for a very inexpensive price point, and this one is also very long lasting. And so that's something that can be said about the Armani and the Xerjoff, is that they're both very, very long lasting, and this one also happens to be fairly long lasting as well, and I think it has a lot to do with that labdanum that is found in the base. The next fragrance is also by the same company, and this one is called Divine X. I'm sorry, I didn't have my glasses on. And this one kind of reminds me of X for Men by Clive Christian. And Fragranza is a clone house, and so they do sort of go after some of the more expensive niche brands. And this one does smell like a Clive Christian X for Men. And so it kind of has that iris, violet, vetiver thing going on in here, very spicy and classic smelling with that verdant undercurrent. Really nice perfume, as a matter of fact, and it just smells very professional, very elegant, very refined, and very well groomed at the same time. Perfect scent to wear with like a suit and tie. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is by Duo Fragrances, and this one is called Another 13 Shades. So this one actually also reminds me of a Le Labo, just like the Zara, but this one reminds me of Another 13. Now, Another 13, and this is, by the way, like a carbon copy of Another 13. That used to be a Colette City exclusive for Le Labo, and then when the department store closed down, I think in 2017, the fragrance became available all over the world. And so I think you can get this whether you're in New York or California or wherever you find a Le Labo boutique. And this one is a synthetic musky pear kind of a fragrance. It's a little bit more on the casual side. It's all synthetic, if I'm remembering correctly, but it has some really expensive musks in it. So it's a very well done perfume. Now, the next fragrance in here, I know a lot of people on the tube compare this to a more popular niche fragrance that is quite expensive, available in a couple different concentrations. For me personally, I don't find it to be too close to the fragrance to which it gets compared. But anyway, this is by Ariana Grande and it's called Cloud. So I know a lot of people say that this is in the vein of Baccarat Rouge 540 by Maison Francis Kurkdjian, but I personally find that this fragrance is a little bit more vanillic and a little bit sweeter. It actually reminds me of this vanilla-based room spray I had many years ago. I'm talking about like back in 2003, 2004. And so it does come across smelling a little bit childish and juvenile, kind of has a little bit of that cotton candy thing, sure, that is also found in Baccarat Rouge. But there's something about this fragrance where I personally don't think it smells as close to Baccarat Rouge, especially considering the fact that there are so many other fragrances out there like Thomas Kazmala No. 4, Casino Royale by Dua, Spirito Fiorentino by Tiziana Terenzi. Those fragrances smell infinitely more like Baccarat Rouge 540, but in any case, this one does get compared to Baccarat Rouge, and unlike Thomas Kazmala and Tiziana Terenzi, this one is actually really inexpensive and it is available at discounters at the moment. The next fragrance is actually composed by Francis Kurkdjian, and this one does get compared to Baccarat Rouge 540 as well. And this one is Burberry for Her, or Burberry Her. And with this fragrance, it has the sweetness of Baccarat Rouge, but there's more of like this raspberry note in the opening, thus making it a little fruitier. So whenever I think of Baccarat Rouge, I think of the Isoe Super, the Ambroxan, the Ethyl Vanillin, the Oak Moss. This one has a fruity overtone that is not found in Baccarat Rouge, and so the sweetness is attributed to a few different ingredients as opposed to Baccarat Rouge, which, hate to say it, is a little bit more linear, even though it is a masterful composition and I personally own a bottle and I love it, but this one is a little bit on the fruitier side, so just keep that in mind. The next fragrance that I want to talk about is called Laventure Night by Al Haramain, and this one smells like Creed's Green Irish Tweed. And now I know there are a lot of Green Irish Tweed alternatives on the market, some of which are not actually alternatives, although they did succeed Green Irish Tweed. So we're talking about Aspen by Coty, Cool Water by Davidoff, and this one actually comes very close to Green Irish Tweed. The performance is also there, so it lasts a pretty good amount of time on skin. I would say about 7 to 8 hours, which, given the DNA of Green Irish Tweed, you know, you have the citrus, the lemon verbena, the violet, the Florentine iris. You have a lot of floral and citrus ingredients, which kind of makes you think like, oh, this isn't going to last a very long time on skin, but it actually does. The performance of Green Irish Tweed is pretty decent on my skin. Not as good as like Royal Oud or Spice and Wood or some of the heavier Creed fragrances, but this one does match the performance, in my opinion, of Green Irish Tweed. The next fragrance on this list is another one that smells like Green Irish Tweed to me, but I find that this one is a little bit fresher, if I'm being honest. This one by the company Michael Malou London is called Visionnaire. Now this is the original, not Visionnaire Midnight Blue. There's a distinction to be made between the two. This one is more along the lines of Green Irish Tweed, whereas Midnight Blue is a lot fresher, more of an emphasis on the citrus. And with this one, you have that same sort of green quality with the violet, that sort of classic masculine feel that's established in there. And I'm personally really enjoying this one because I can wear this one in place of Green Irish Tweed. And truth be told, I'm actually completely done with my bottle of Green Irish Tweed, so I do need to repurchase very soon. And with that, we are at the #1 spot. I kind of breezed through this list in comparison to how quickly I get through some of the other lists that I've done in the past. But anyway, the #1 fragrance, and these are not in any particular order, but this one is by Moschino, and it's called I Love Love Cheap and Chic. And it kind of looks like Olive from Popeye. So this one is actually similar to Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue, which is a designer fragrance, but that can also be compared to this one by Creed, which is called Acqua Fiorentina. And this is this plum, floral, vanilla sort of a fragrance. It is so amazing. And by the way, this was composed by Olivier Cresp, and the Light Blue by Dolce & Gabbana was also composed by Olivier Cresp. Now, of course, this was composed by a member of the Creed family, so it's a little bit different. But if you really like the smell of Acqua Fiorentina and you don't mind something that smells like 80% similar, then I think you'll enjoy I Love Love Cheap and Chic. And kind of like the name implies, cheap and chic, it is certainly on the inexpensive side. I know it's marketed for women, but I never really made that distinction in the beginning of the video. Like some of these are unisex, like the Ariana Grande and the Burberry. This is for women as well, or it's marketed for women, but I personally find all fragrances to be unisex. In terms of the ones that come really close to the original, I have to say the Citizen X, if that's what it's called, no, Divine X, excuse me. This one I got confused with a Ex Nihilo fragrance. This one does smell very close to the Clive Christian. The Michael Malul smells very close to Green Irish Tweed. The Dua fragrance smells very close to Another 13. And I would also say that the Warm Black kind of smells similar to the Tom Ford, but this one is more of a mashup between Tobacco Vanille and Spice Bomb. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for tuning in today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you took something of value from this video. If you did, please support the channel by subscribing to it. Remember to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon, and let me know what your favorite is by leaving a comment down below. Thanks again for watching. Love you all. We'll see you next time. Bye.